G'day guys, it's Lead It Pros here from F-Stop Lounge, and today I'm very excited again. I'm pretty much always excited, but this time I've got a great reason because I've got Varina and Jay Patel with me. Good morning, Varina, or good evening I should say. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Yes, we're doing great.
Yep.
Fantastic. Well, thanks very much for joining me. I really wanted to catch up with you guys because you're going to be instructors on the Fiji Photography Workshop. So I was just wanting to hear from you yourselves about what you're going to sort of be teaching on this workshop and what sort of people can expect when they come along to your workshop session, because we've just heard from Benjamin Von Wong, so I thought it would be very good to hear from you guys as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I think rather than telling you guys specifically about what we're teaching, I think what we are going to do is we're going to actually tell you what our teaching style is like and what to expect. People who have been on our workshops and people who have seen us teach in person, we like to take theory and numbers and all kinds of technical stuff and distill it down into practice. So I'll give you an example. If you teach about histograms, for example, I can go on and on about all kinds of things, technical things about histogram. But in the end, what it comes down to is this. Our teaching style is such that whatever I teach you about histograms, you can actually go and take a look at the back of the camera and say, oh yeah, I need to adjust my shutter speed like this, and the histogram should be like that, and then take a photo and get it right. And that is what you can expect from our workshop.
Yeah, so we're not going to be out there trying to shove all kinds of numbers and stuff like that down your throat. That's good stuff, don't get me wrong. And we'll make sure that you understand how this stuff works. But the idea is to simplify it, because this is stuff anybody can do. You don't have to be a famous photographer. You don't have to have 25 years of experience under your belt. Anybody can do this stuff. And that's what we want to present,
Yeah, cool.
Anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I've come along to one of your workshops, and that's pretty much how I first met you guys when you came to Australia. And I was so amazed and so inspired by your teaching that I invited you to come along to this workshop, because I think together you work really, really well as a team. And that's something, you can't really get online. Having sort of the presence and being there and helping someone on a one-on-one experience works quite well. I mean, Varina, for yourself, how long have you been teaching for?
I guess I've probably been teaching since about 2005. I started teaching, just local stuff, the local photographic society meetings and stuff like that. By 2006, I was teaching workshops, and Jay and I were teaching workshops together at that point. And we've been teaching ever since. Now, of course, we do online video courses and stuff like that. But teaching is a skill it's completely different from photography. So you can be a great photographer, but not be a good teacher. And that's something Jay and I have really worked on together, so that we can do both. And we've learned a lot from one another in order to sort of hone those skills. So, and there's always more that we can learn, I think what we've done is we've tried to take the ways we learn best, and we learn very differently. But we've tried to take those, techniques and turn them around so other people can benefit from them.
Yeah. And talking about teaching, Lee, I have to tell you that Fiji Workshop is our only workshop in 2015. Yeah. We're not offering any other workshop. So if you guys want to come and learn what we have to teach, this is a place to be.
Fantastic, yeah. And Jay, if I could ask you a question on that, like, you've obviously taught quite a lot of beginners and amateurs and even professionals, but what's the one sort of most common thing that you come across when someone's learning the art of photography and wanting to turn pro as a fact, because you've obviously had some experience in that yourself?
So I think there are two questions in there as to and I'll try to answer each of them differently, slightly. So the first question is what is it about, what one thing I can tell photographers who are trying to go and grow in their field? Well, in particularly on landscape photography, and because that is what we're going to teach, I'm going to answer the question based on that. So for landscape photography, the key thing that is different, very different from something else, is in landscape photography you do not have control over the elements. The elements have control over you. So you can be in Fiji and expect to find this great location and come away with a weather pattern that could be completely different than what you expected, right? So when you're starting out in photography, whether you're amateur or a pro, and what differentiates the amateurs from pro is the pros in landscape photography have learned to deal with this situation. So you can be in a studio and have all the control over the lighting that you possibly can, and all you have to worry about the moods of the model. In landscape photography, not only do you have to worry about the moods of the photographers or the models if you're shooting somebody outside, they have to worry about weather and seasonal patterns and that crow on the back of the camera or some dog running around in the background. Anything and everything is possible.
Or your own footprints on the dunes, you know?
Yeah, so you have to be, so the key about landscape photography, and this is what we will concentrate later part of our class, is to be able to develop this workflow that takes all of these things into account and tries to eliminate them methodically, coming up with an absolutely fantastic photograph.
Fantastic. Well, that's really, really good to hear. And, you know, I think when you start out as a photographer and you're sort of learning the ropes, so to speak, it can be quite a daunting task. So it's good to sort of come along to a workshop and mingle with people who have been out in the field and really sort of learned their craft, so you can learn from that. And it actually, I think it builds you as a stronger photographer. Would you probably agree with that?
Yeah, and you know, I think, you know, Jay's answer I completely agree with, but at the same time, I think there's something even more important than that that's even broader, and that is that, you know, we get that question all the time. What do I need to do to become a professional photographer? And I think the answer is actually pretty simple. Learn. You know, it's not about the equipment you have. It's not about the, you know, how much money you spend or the locations you visit. It's none of those things. It's how much you know, how much effort you are willing to put in to becoming better, and you do that by learning. Knowledge is far more valuable than, you know, the latest equipment. It's just, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Well, I know when I first started in photography, I bought one of the, you know, most expensive cameras because I was doing weddings and stuff. And looking back, I really regret that because I had no idea. I had no direction on what I was doing. And, you know, I really would have loved to go to a photography workshop because for me, you know, learning from others is just one thing that we do very well naturally. You know, we're born to be, you know, learning from someone else, so to look up to. So I think that's really, really going to be a great key aspect coming along to the Fiji workshop. We've got 8 fantastic instructors, including yourselves, and I'm just really looking forward to it. Now,
we are too.
Yeah, touching on the Fiji workshop, just again, if I could ask you, Varina, if you could sort of outline 3 things that you will be teaching that you think are going to be important for people to learn on when they come to your workshop session.
Yeah, I think I can talk about that.
Yep. Put you on the spot.
Like, deer in the headlight. I don't know. No, I'm kidding. Well, let's see. So I think as a nature photographer, one of the things that I really believe in is understanding how your equipment works. So as I'm talking about, you know, whatever concepts we're going over, we're going to be making sure that, you know, I can't stand up there and say, hey, you have a Nikon, you have Sony, or whatever it is. It's not going to be like that. But there's so much that's important that's common to all the different you know, cameras and all the different equipment that's out there. I really believe in teaching people to use the equipment they have as effectively as possible so that they can walk out of whatever I'm teaching and they can do it on their own. They don't have to come back and say, hey, Varina, what was that about this, that, and the other? I want to make sure that, the equipment that they have is going to work. And the way they're going to make it work for themselves is by understanding how the components of whatever it is work. So I think, Jay, you mentioned histograms earlier, right? I want to make sure that when you look at a histogram, no matter what camera you're using, or maybe it's in software like Photoshop, you can go in there and you're going to understand how a histogram works, what it's telling you, how it's talking to you, and how that translates into field work. So that's where my strengths are when it comes to teaching. I'm going to take the information I'm putting forth in class, and I'm going to make sure you can take it into the field, because that's where it matters, not in the classroom.
So just to add to that is, besides that, we're also going to talk about how to get in people's heads. Now, we talk about composition, and people always in photography love to talk about composition. Composition is just one of the aspects. Composition is nothing without trying to understand what your viewer is seeing. So a big chunk of our presentation is going to be dedicated to how do you compose a photo so that if your center point of interest is that little flower that is growing in a field which is several miles long, that person is able to see that single flower no matter how tiny it appears in the photo. And that is the art of perception that we're going to be talking about.
So how many times has somebody showed you a photo and said, what do you think? And you look at the photo and you think, I wonder what this photo is about. Is it the dog? Is it the train? Is it the tree? I don't know, When you walk into any photography situation, right? Any scene, defining the point of interest is hugely important, but that's only the beginning. We're all taught, well, make sure you have a single interesting element in your frame, but how you make that element the most important thing in your frame, because everything else is important too. Negative space, dead space, which is a different thing entirely. We're going to talk about things like that.
Yeah, and sort of relate it to landscape photography, which is what you guys are really renowned for. But I'm sure that really comes out, and it's not only going to just be for landscape photography. These people coming along to the workshop will be able to take these elements and sort of apply it to other genres as well. Would that be right, Jay?
Absolutely. And the third thing that we're going to talk about is a workflow. And the workflow goes back to my original statement that says, in this business of landscape photography, you don't control the conditions control you. Yeah. So we are going to go ahead and do and teach you how to develop your workflow. Now you can take that workflow and apply it to anything else, like a travel photography, or just portraits, outside portraits, or just anything that you want. So the histogram concept, the perception and composition concepts, the workflow concepts, they are very broad topics that, sure, we will focus on landscape photography, but you can take those topics and apply them anywhere that you wish.
Yeah, and that's one key thing that when I sort of came up with the idea of the workshop, that I really wanted to invite a mixture of instructors to teach different genres, because coming along to the Fiji workshop, you're not only going to one workshop session, you're actually going to go to all of them, and so you have time with all the instructors to learn these key things. So you'll get different teaching methods, different genres, and it's just going to help you build up your rapport to be a more well-rounded photographer, so you can shoot any subject down the track. So that was one sort of key thing from me. Now, I noticed that you guys were just in Hawaii recently. Can you tell me just one little story from each of you, just a quick story, what a highlight was and a low point was, if something went wrong, and how you overcame it? We'll start with Varina.
How do you choose? I'll do a high point.
Low point, there wasn't any, actually, to be honest.
I'll have to think about low points. Yeah. That's harder. We have trouble finding good coffee.
Yeah. We missed the coffee in Australia.
Well, Melbourne did get voted the #1 coffee place in the world over Rome and Venice, so...
Yeah.
But
Well, we
Varina,
found that the coffee conocide was better than helocide, so, you know,
Okay.
what are you going to do?
Sure.
No, but I think for me, probably one of the highlights of the trip was my son actually came with us this time. He's 18, and he was able to come on the trip with us. I took him out to the beach in on Maui, where I actually learned to swim when I was 7.
Wow.
And we were snorkeling out there, and at one point he decided to go in. He was sitting on the beach. He's reading a book. He's a lot like his mother. That's what I like to do, sit on the beach and read a book, you know. But Jay and I were out there snorkeling, and there was the most enormous sea turtle right underwater. So I come out of the water, and I'm calling to my son. I'm waving him over. He comes running out into the water with his snorkel and his mask, jumps in, and he gets there in time to see this incredible, beautiful honu, which is the green sea turtle.
Wow.
And you know, it was close enough to touch. And,
It was
you give it its space, but it came to us. You know, it's just beautiful. So that was really neat.
Yeah. Sorry, good.
Let's
Sorry.
talk about the low point of the trip, right?
Because we all have our low points in landscape photography. Everyone sort of sees... The reason why I asked that question, because, you know, everyone thinks, oh, you know, these people are taking fantastic photos. It's going to be fantastic all the time. But that's not reality, right?
No, so that is not the reality. The reality of our trip was the weather patterns were very, very unusual. So when we were expecting a heavy cloud cover, nothing showed up. Pretty much we got every single day was blue sky day, or the whole week that we were shooting our video course, right?
Yeah.
Very harsh light.
Very harsh light. And then so you need creativity to come up with something which is incredibly attractive. And how do you do that? So what we ended up doing was we ended up filming the entire course and trying to find ways to come up with something which actually looks like somebody can be proud of, right? Yeah. And that is what the landscape photography is all about. I mean, you can be as good as you want, but like I said, the weather just does not control you.
It controls you. It controls you, yeah.
I mean, you don't control the weather, that is, it controls you. Right?
Well, I think our second night on Maui, there was this huge storm that came through. The next day we're driving the North Shore Road, and I mean, there were rocks down in the middle of the road that we must have passed 50 rock falls. And these were not little rock falls. These were, you know, can we get through rock falls? You know, trees were down, branches were down, there were road crews out there. At one point we passed probably 25 guys trying to clean up near Kapalua, which is where my grandmother lives. I mean, it was a disaster. But hey, you know, there's a lot of pleasure in that too, because you see the island at a time when most people don't get to see it, except locals. You know? Yeah,
cool. So we had to kind of work around our way through all these things to be able to come up with something good.
We have to be very adaptable. That's the key to landscape photography.
So here's one of the ways we adapted, and you can see this image.
Yeah, wow.
So I'll send you a copy to put it as a part of your interview.
Thanks very much, Jay. I really appreciate that. And I'm just glad that I didn't choose Hawaii with the rocks. I mean, I think Fiji, you're probably just going to have to watch out for the coconuts. But I'm sure they'll be coming in a cocktail form rather than one on your head. Okay, well, thanks very much for joining me, guys. I really, really appreciate it. And I just wanted to throw out the invite for anyone watching this to jump on to the F-Stop Lounge workshop page and check out Jay and Varina's video. You can find it on the F-Stop Lounge YouTube. And that really sums up their story, and also how they're going to teach you when you come along to the Fiji workshop, because it is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And if you want to sort of learn from Jay and Varina, I highly encourage you to come along to this, because this is, as I said, their only workshop that they're doing this year. And I just really think it's going to be a beneficial thing for you to come along and learn.
So thanks very much, Varina and Jay, for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
And just in closing, what can we see from you next? What are you planning? Some blog posts? What are you planning next?
Well, we just put out our Essential Filters course, so that's out there now.
Yeah.
We're headed for Morocco.
weeks.
Next week? 2 weeks?
Yeah.
In 2 weeks, and we'll be creating a short course while we're there. And of course, we always have blog posts coming out and more information for photographers. So.
Yep. And just quickly, where can people catch you on online?
The best place to capture us is visualwilderness.com. And they can send us a message via there. All our courses are up there. All our blogs are coming out from up there. We have several writers for it.
Lots of YouTube videos.
A lot of YouTube
and you can
videos.
find all of those on our website. Of course, our YouTube channel, but they're all accessible from our website as well. So visualwilderness.com.
Great. Well, thank you very much, guys, and I'll call that over and out.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, Lee.